Cool. We'll find out. So welcome all to the Bitcoin Design Guide Jam session number 38, November 14. We're kind of dispersed here, and as I mentioned in Slack earlier, we don't have a ton of activity that happened on the guide in the last couple of weeks because people were traveling, doing other shenanigans. But we do have some topics that we can still discuss. How about we just throw a few topics up here in this Google Doc behind me, if you can see it, hopefully. Let me also just share that link. And then we can just talk through them. How does that sound?
Sufficient.
Yeah. How could we make this sound better, Stephen? How did you get this to a German okay?
Oh no, that was a German fantastic.
Okay. So we have merchant section. It could be a topic, Mo, and the Blix case study, right? Can't hear you, but I assume there's a quiet yes there. And then the other thing was the standard stuff. And for that, I was thinking, Stephen, if you're kicking off the async bolt 12, whatever, you created that channel, right? And we also had the community call last week about posting more or pushing more on standards. That we could also add more content on this to the guide itself. So we have those campaign sites, but we also expand, for example, the interoperability session and other relevant sections for these types of things. Maybe there's some overlap there. Anything else?
Yep, that could be cool.
Oh yeah, we have milestone 16 and 17 with 0 progress, but it's kind of what it is now. I hope this week and next week we'll get back to that. Any other topics? Oh, Daniel posted a translation thing. Anything I missed?
I mean, we can talk a little bit about structuring a roadmap, but this is more general community thing versus the Bitcoin design thing. So I'm not sure if it fits the whole structure. But if there is time, we can maybe touch quickly on that as well.
Yep. And that's the roadmap for the next, 6, 12 months or so. Who wants to start? Mo, should we start with your case study or no? Because I know you and Stephen did you already have a session to continue with that one? No?
No, we haven't had, but we're gonna jam on it ASAP.
Okay.
Yeah. I figured we were kind of going to do that this week sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I should be available today if you want to work on that. And a little bit booked up Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with the conference.
Okay.
So yeah, honestly, we should probably do it today or punt it to next week.
No, I'd rather get started with it today because I just would literally love to just get it online or get a draft copy on.
Yep.
I can maybe sometime this evening Dutch time. I can just ping you sometimes.
Yep. Either before or after wallet scrutiny, we could take a look at it together.
That's the idea. Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. And for context for anyone else, Mo is creating a case study based on the Blix wallet design sprint that we started earlier this year. And you're pretty good with the content. So a big step is now wrapping it up and also getting it in Markdown into GitHub. So Mo and Stephen are collaborating on that part. Cool. Let's see. Let me find my document here. Okay, cool. That one is merchant section. Stephen, do you want to speak to any of that, or should we pull up the? Should we do anything actively on this during this call, or?
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I mean, basically, we kind of talked about it for anyone who's not aware of the context. We first started discussing. I mean, we've been discussing the merchants related content on the guide for a long time. Just hey, it would be nice to have that sort of stuff. Um, and last summer, we started kind of compiling some information, having some more serious conversations about it. Now that we're pretty much wrapped up on the daily spending wallet, save for the UI kit stuff that Christoph is doing, we're going to start working on that more seriously. So Pav and I started discussing this at our recent in-person core meetup, and so he and I are going to be collaborating on pushing the merchant section forward. Haven't made any progress in the past couple of days because we've all been traveling and going to back home and to our next destinations and so forth. But yeah, we just need to kind of talk, push that forward a little bit. So yeah, I'm happy to speak more about the merchant more here on the call. I don't know how deep we want to get into it because it's really, really early and really, really unstructured at this point.
Yeah, so I'm digging up this document here.
Mhm.
Also gonna share that in the background. So this was kind of the latest status, I think, where we try to come up with just a list of things to tackle.
Yeah.
And then one of the discussions there was that we don't try to think about it as this super massive thing that is where everyone's just intimidated by how first of all how awesome it's going to be in the end, but then secondly by actually starting to do anything about it. Working in a decentralized fashion makes it difficult to just try to make something super massive right away. So the discussion was to split it up into a lot of smaller tasks, like first creating a small page about one person creates a page about multi-currency display, another person maybe on point of sale best practices for like these handheld point of sale devices or so. Another person maybe looks into personas and the different types of scenarios and stuff. So we just kind of split it up into smaller pieces and then later on weave them together to a beautiful rug or something like that. So this document was kind of I think it was kind of the latest there.
Yeah, and I mean, really, I just made kind of a conversation starter. So I really kind of consider it kind of outdated at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
I think what we ultimately ended up settling on was let's try and just collect merchant related issues, solve those issues, and then build up to something. So in other words, we're not trying to build a merchant reference design. We're not trying to build like the merchant equivalent of the daily spending wallet yet. That might be something we work up to where we eventually have like a really awesome reference design. But for now, let's focus on just solving unique problems that merchants face, and then as we kind of build up this library of work, we can kind of weave that into a reference design later. Fab was saying that just with his experience on BTC Pay Server, that I think he just has like kind of a list somewhere of like common problems and things, like common questions he has to answer and troubleshoot for people and stuff like that. So I think that sort of list would be a really, really good starting place for adding some of this content.
Yeah, sorry, just tuned in normally without crappy sound and phone. So I maybe have missed portions of what Steven had said, but I was thinking about this today, how we can approach merchant section, and for me personally, it's very hard to build something unless we have like concrete thing to build. So, like having an early adopter around which we can, I guess, compile our reference designs. So I was looking at what was it named, the Galoy thing, Bitcoin Beach wallet, and they seems to be doing like a point of sale. And in BTC Pay Server, we want to rewrap our point of sale as well from next release. So next 2 months at least, our focus will be revamping the front of our very simple keypad like point of sale. So maybe we can use that opportunity to have a concrete design, like minimum viable, however you want to call it, point of sale system. Because like, how can you wrap multi-currency and things like that without having a concrete product to build? I don't know. I find it very hard to think of these things unless it's like, let's build something and then we will wrap all of our ideas around that, and then we can maybe talk about more about like multi-currencies and things that go together with this minimal looking like keypad point of sale. That's one approach, and the other is simply documenting problems and then trying to solve them. But I think we have great opportunity that we have 2 big open source projects basically in parallel building something that we can use, and then I guess have our own reference design around it. But I'm not sure how you feel about that, Stephen. Just wanted to point that as an idea. That's all.
Yeah, that could be cool. I mean, maybe it is. I mean, maybe the industry is farther along than we think. I mean, maybe we should just be focusing on some of the existing products. I don't know. I think another thing to think about too is that this can get really broad. This is something we were kind of talking about in the Spain meetup, is that like you could imagine that there could be like a really, really large business that has, a whole accounting system and tons of point of sale terminals. And then there could be something smaller than that. That's like, a small store that just needs to delegate access to like 1 or 2 employees. And then you could have someone who's just a lone wolf, they're a retailer, they're a single person business. And then they could be doing this online or in real life. So there's a kind of a wide range. And like, I feel like if we do want to tackle like a reference design for merchants, we really need to kind of narrow down like what's going to do the most good. What's going to be like, what kind of user are we solving for? And all of that. So because I feel like we can't kind of, it's going to be very difficult to, come up with a design that just, meets the needs of everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I think first distinction in terms of merchants will be online and retailers, because the systems are completely different there. So you have people dealing with point of sale terminals, with as you called in real life, and then you have merchants dealing with different kind of integrations into their existing e-commerce software online. So like that's the first distinction then that I would make. And if we would have to narrow it down, I would say design a Bitcoin wallet with point of sale functionality for mom and pop shop. So it's hard to say like mom and pop shop, but we can definitely we're converting there. But you get the point. Something that is very simple and that will do the job for early adopters in terms of merchants that would want to accept Bitcoin. So my experience is that most of these guys simply want to have like very simple way to request Bitcoin, maybe have a built-in refund functionality. And now we're expanding it like with refund functionality, with some basic accounting that they can export into their e-commerce software. One wallet basically that has this is Breeze. So they have point of sale functionality within their app, and maybe Breeze can also be something that we can look into. But merchants basically just need a few numbers to type something in, request it, and and afterwards deal with. Because I don't think even in-person merchants deal with refunds that much. But yeah, I'm now ranting. Sorry, I was running, so I'm tired. Please forgive my ranting here.
So to kind of just so we can move on to some maybe some of the other topics, I think a good way maybe forward for merchants might be, maybe we should start off by doing kind of like a community research period, because you brought a lot of good points. There's already a lot of kind of prior art out there. Breeze is trying to do this with the point of sale functionality in their app. BTC Pay server is planning on redesigning their point of sale UI. Bitcoin Beach has already been working on it. Melly's already done demonstrated that work on a couple of calls before. So it might be a sort of situation where we just need to maybe almost similar to the wallet review project, where we just need to kind of like spend some time like focusing on some of the products that are out there already, and just kind of onboard ourselves to them. Figure out what's working, what's working, who we think they're building it for, what's working, what's not working, all of that. And then once we've kind of compiled all this like kind of research about all what's already out there, then we can think about like, okay, well, what would like this perfect reference design look like?
Yeah, because while doing this, we can then, for example, figure out, okay, merchants need a better way to issue refunds, and then all these things can connect to like our maybe in the future better or different reference designs for online merchants, because like refunding flow can, we can have some similarities between all of these different reference designs. So
From an interest point of view, Stephen and Pav, I'd love to see like how you guys pull insights from the research that you do, because it's really interesting for me how people collect insights from doing the design research, because that's something that maybe might be nice to include in the UX research toolkit, is how people do design research. Because right now I'm actually doing design research for wallet scrutiny, so I'd love to see how you guys do it and maybe be involved a little bit. But yeah, I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I say research, I don't mean like Mo level research. I just mean like I'm gonna like take screenshots of a wallet and write down my thoughts.
This is literally what I'm doing for wallet scrutiny. I'm like literally taking screenshots and writing down some notes. Literally.
For merchant stuff, I'm also curious, let's say in stores or at some small street vendors or so, if we have to consider things in the real life experience around the digital experience. So I remember Galloy, they had this one call set up where they wanted to have some type of paper or booklet or so with a QR code on there, and then there were instructions on there for tourists, because the vendors and the customers did not speak the same language, so they had to get around say they had to somehow communicate how much to pay and then how to do the payment via this smartphone and QR code. So I think there's some interesting stuff. Maybe in stores there are different considerations. I'm also curious if, let's say, one store is all on chain, the other one's already doing Bolt 12, whatever stuff, if there are different alternatives around here, or if a payment fails, if there's a graceful way to the display to automatically handle that, or the user to just select some alternative payment method, or one of these kind of Bitcoin specific problems, rather than stuff that basically any Visa accepting store would also need to deal with.
Yeah. So if you guys know WeChat, they became popular just because merchants had this simple QR code that they can print out and put it on their, I don't know, small shops, and people will just scan that QR code, WeChat me, or however they call that. So I guess another way to, well, this is now a different reference design, because we are now designing merchants who may not even have access to mobile apps right on the spot, or maybe not even the internet. So how could we cater for those experience, so that this narrows it down to a different use case that we may want to tackle? Like how can you onboard merchant just simply by printing a QR code saying accept Bitcoin, and then whoever wants to pay can pay. But that also gives us a different problem there, as you said, Christoph. How do you know, like with all these rate sources and everything, how much they should pay specifically? Because like WeChat is perfect, they are centralized, they give you all of these rates already, so there is no problem there. But in Bitcoin, it can become a problem, and we see that with, for example, with BTC Pay server, when somebody generates a $10 invoice and somebody will just enter $10 in their Bitcoin wallet, and those $10 are different $10 because of the rate differences that merchant receives, and then we say, oh, you received more or you received less than what you requested. But hey, that's another I guess topic for discussion. But just wanted to bring another reference design idea maybe that can be born out of this.
Yeah, and I think that's where also this idea of having a page about multi-currency display comes in, how to handle the conversion rates elegantly during that time. I've seen that with Blue Wallet a ton recently. For whatever reason, the rates were just kind of off, and sometimes it even said, last time the rate was updated was November or whatever. So yeah. Someone from India, or a friend here from India, said that they were buying something at a local store, and the vendor just said, here, scan that code next to the product, and the guy scanned it and paid it, and that was it. The vendor didn't have to interact with anything. And my friend was wondering how did he know that he paid? And I guess there was a small device that just played a certain sound from when certain thing, and the vendor kind of knew what to listen to, and that allowed the transaction to be super seamless, and that the vendor never had to touch a device, never had to type anything in or so. So maybe there's some interesting, innovative approaches there that can help, make things more frictionless.
Yeah, or it's usually a printer that prints out the receipt or something similar that can just, because you notice this guy, they don't check if the payment really arrived. They trust the sound of it. They trust that receipt spits out that it's been paid. So cashiers, they just automatically they're dealing with a ton of shit. So they just like take receipt, beep, 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 it works, okay, paid. They don't check if it really arrived or anything. So they trust the sound, as you said. In Bitcoin, it's a little bit different because we don't have really centralized servers that would deal with that unless a centralized service that designs something around our design, and then maybe it would make sense. So we definitely should, I guess, consider
Yeah, but
those.
like you said earlier, it's probably best to tackle the biggest problems first. The biggest problems and the most Bitcoin-related problems, or unique.
Yeah. It's also, is it on-chain or off-chain problems? So there are layers of these problems that merchants deal with. I can talk about very briefly. I'm not sure if we have time, but one of the biggest problems is people just paying from an exchange. They like these people use exchanges. They pay. Exchange eats up a little bit of fee, and merchants always get less than they expect because an exchange won't clearly communicate with you. Hey, we've um, took this fee. What they do is just they handle fee payments as withdrawals. So they're, oh, you withdrew, we took a little bit of fee from you because this is how we make money. And then that's one of the biggest problems that we've seen with merchants. They use Binance Wallet or whatever that are basically, they're like, well, how is it underpaid? I paid the exact amount, and then we have to tell them, well, exchanges suck. They don't clearly communicate this with you, and we really don't know how to communicate this with you. Do we like add a big red warning, don't pay from an exchange? Would that can be both good and bad? I don't know, but things like that. And then them entering fiat amount. Sometimes they overpay the amount because they click something in their wallet, so merchant gets 1 Bitcoin even though they expected, I don't know, 0.00 something. So these things sometimes happen, which is unfortunate. But underpaid invoices on chain are, I think, the biggest problem. Earlier we had like a SegWit incompatibility, which was really bad, but these days I really don't get I guess complaints from people that this wallet is not compatible but paying to this wallet. So
Okay, interesting stuff. Plenty of things to do for the next, I don't know, half year. What do you think? When will we have a merchant section live?
well, we would
2
have to
weeks.
scope it.
That's it's too much of time, Stephen. I go for a week by the end of the conference.
Yeah, cool. Anything else on this topic?
No, I guess Steven and I can structure a doc, but I think doc already exists. Just throw a little bit of more ideas and then share it with you guys, and we'll see how to scope it because there are lots of components. So let's figure out some structure and then work on particular section of the structure that we figured out. But I'm sure lots of things will move as we explore.
Yep. Okay, cool. So next one, the standards stuff. So Stephen, you're gonna, sorry, I mentioned it earlier a little bit. So that's around the new initiative to promote Bolt 12 and async payments as a standard to adopt ecosystem wide. So we have smoother offline payments and static QR codes and these types of things. And so Stephen, in that is happening now in, what is that channel called? Bolt 12-async-UX.
I think. Yep, that sounds about right.
It's a very nice channel name. So you had a few
That sounded like
suggestions.
sarcasm.
I don't know what that means. So you had a few suggestions here. You had kind of 3 points. Education. What can we do? Can we do a learning Bitcoin and design call?
Mhm.
And do you think, and then mock up some user flows of what the Bolt 12-bit async payments system might look like, and then the campaign. And I feel like the first 2 parts of this could also flow into the guide. So Bolt
Sure.
12 and async payments, it's probably pretty good stuff for the daily spending wallet.
Yeah. I mean, I just, you know, I think we should get through 1 and 2, yeah, before we, you know, I'm trying to go into this with like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've been talking about Bolt 12 for a while. I think it's cool. I'm trying to be like, I want to go through a process here where I actually, you know, looking at the technology, making sure that it's the appropriate fit, and you know, actually mapping out what this is before we jump into like a promotion of it.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't consider myself promoting this yet. I would consider myself exploring this, and then I might promote it later. So yeah, but I think whatever comes out of the second item there could certainly be a great candidate for the daily spending wallet.
Yeah. You know that, no, totally. Does Steve, since he initiated that, does he have some type of perspective on how far the ecosystem is with the adoption of this, or if the technology is mature enough, or what's going on there?
I guess we'll have to ask Steve what he thinks about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
My take on it is that, you know, right now, like obviously LDK is working on it. They've been, you know, fairly public about that. Core Lightning already has it implemented. I'm not sure if it's experimental. Last time I checked, it was an experimental flag you had to enable, but I think it might be farther along now, but I'm not sure on that. And I'm not sure what the status of Eclair is at the moment. And then L&D just flat out, I think they pretty much said that they have no intention of supporting it. That's you know, that's what I remember at least.
Yeah, so definitely not in a, hey, this where we're all agreed on it, let's quickly roll this thing out. It's just we can implement it via 2 lines of code type of thing, but much earlier than that.
Oh no, oh, this is not 2 lines of code. I mean, Bolt 12 is not 2 lines of code. It's a major upgrade for Lightning implementations because there's a lot in it. It's not just this. There's not just this whole you know, reusable QR code to make that thing function underneath the surface. You have these things called onion messages. Not like it's not like when a payment is constructed as an onion. These are actually, it's kind of like almost like a new messaging protocol for the nodes to be able to talk to each other. So there's a lot in this upgrade and all of that. So I mean, I'm getting into like engineering level stuff that I can't, you know, speak as you know, knowledgeably about. But just at least what I've been, monitoring the discussions, it seems like there's been tons and tons of discussion, among the engineers from the various implementations on the best way to implement within their projects. So it's a huge undertaking, at least from where I stand.
And no wallet even supports it either, right?
I'm not sure. I think I heard that there was some like wallet you can download on your phone that you can connect to a Core Lightning node or something like that. So I mean, there may be some like kind of experimental wallets that support Bolt 12, but no, to my knowledge, no, there's no just like wallet that just like flat out supports Bolt 12 offers right out the box.
I wonder if we could talk to someone like Evan or so about these types of things to get another perspective from someone who's very close to the tech on this and develops a wallet or supports even so like a wallet interface basically for different nodes.
Yeah, I was going to find someone to help out with a learning Bitcoin and design call. At least, we already looked at Bolt 12 a while back, so we could do a refresher on that. But I also want to get into the async payments idea, which is this other. It's another idea that's really it's actually kind of unrelated to Bolt 12, but when you use it in conjunction with Bolt 12, it's really interesting. So I want to do a learning call about async payments, and I'll be seeking out some people to help me with those calls.
Yeah, so the first designs were probably just more kind of like a future vision without considering the tech in detail or the reality of the current reality of the tech.
I think we should look at both. I think we should look at what I call the perfect world, which is everybody in the world supports async payments and Bolt 12, and then but we also need to look at the imperfect world. What does it look like when only half of the ecosystem, let's say, supports Bolt 12 and async? And what does it look like when somebody scans a Bolt 12 QR code and they can't read it? Or what does it look like when somebody's wallet doesn't know how to support async payments, and so they're not able to pay the receiver when they're offline. So we need to think about, I think, both scenarios, what we're ultimately long term building towards, and what we can realistically expect, like in 2023.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of error states.
Yep, I think that's probably what's in our future.
Nice. Okay, sounds good. But I think that's a cool one. If we can help, ensure that once this stuff launches, everyone has a very nice, smooth experience and fairly quick adoption to it. Okay, cool. Were there any questions on this topic by anyone? Or it's pretty clear?
It's so convoluted and technical that everyone is too intimidated to ask a question about it.
I would need to keep you here for at least 5 hours to ask you all the questions. So, yeah.
Very cool. But hopefully visualizing some of this stuff, making it that simple, doing some of the hard work of communicating it, and pulling out the right pieces will hopefully make it more broadly intuitive. Okay, cool. Translation. So that's kind of an interesting one that kind of popped out of nowhere with Mr. Pav here initiating something and then Daniel picking it up. And now we have an issue. So for context, there's we met up with a few people or a Barcelona meetup presented there, and then they were interested into doing translations, and then Pav I think talked to them, and they had some back and forth, and they're interested in starting to translate some of the guide content, starting with the very basic pages. And then Daniel today created an issue around it, which I will share as a link here. Just sharing that one. And let me see if I can also pull that up here in my background. So there's doing the translation itself, and then there's the technical setup. And I think the technical setup, usually the way it works is you hook up to some type of service like Transifex or so, and that service kind of pulls in all the relevant pages, and then it allows you in Transifex to say, yeah, I want to translate this page to Portuguese or something like that. And then you have like your workspace in there, and then at some point you say, okay, it's done. Someone probably has to approve it or so, and then I'm not exactly sure how that works. I assume there's like some GitHub commit or so where the new translated pages get pulled in, and then we probably also need some type of language toggle and some type of detection, which pages are available in which languages, maybe some other stuff that happens around there. Yeah, something like that. So there's actually doing the work, then there's the technical setup, and then also kind of figuring out the workflow around it. And of course, the easier the workflow is, the smoother this whole thing is, the more likely we'll actually get people to do localization. So yeah, I don't have a ton of thoughts on this one. It's cool. Someone needs to investigate the technical side of things. Pav, I know you have experience with it, and maybe some other people in the community too. We can ask around.
Yeah, you gave a good intro. That's usually how things work. We can take a look at existing websites, how they do it. There is bitcoin.org that uses Transifex. There is btc-based-server.org that uses Transifex. So a lots of, I guess, websites in our community, Bitcoin community, however you want to call it, use these setups, and it's usually pretty automated. So for BTC-based server, I think whenever it's like translation is done, it automatically kicks things off and just updates the websites with those strings. So there is like doing a translation, and there is reviewing and approving in Transifex basically. So you have like language coordinator that does the approval, and somehow then those strings are pulled. So basically, you're pulling from Transifex and replacing them. I'm sure technicalities. There are multiple ways to approach this. Right now, I think the most important thing is that we motivate the Spanish or Catalonian Bitcoin community in Barcelona to help us have something at least, and then we will figure things out. For now, they will be using Google Docs since we don't have anything set up, but we will later port it over somehow. But I think it's most important to use the momentum between the two communities that we created in Barcelona and just keep pushing. So we agreed to translate first the introductory part of the Bitcoin design guide, because I think that one is most unlikely to have quick changes and iterations. That one seems pretty stable. So let's have something, and then we'll build through sections. I think they already started it. They did a tweet as well. So I will, in a way, be the bridge, communicating what they did back to you guys if you want, so that you don't have to follow their Telegram. So yeah, that's it. When they have something, then we'll see how to technically port those translation, I guess. But I think this shouldn't be very hard. There are few common ways to do it, and we just have to pick which one we want to go with.
Yeah, and there are also some limitations. We're probably not gonna translate localize the screen mockups or Figma prototypes, and I don't know what video linked videos or anything like that. The other thing that I'm wondering about is the user experience. Let's say we localize one page in the whole guide. How do I get there? How do I know that this is available in a different language? And then at one point you introduce a global language toggle. Is it at a point where, let's say, 50%? And then if you should still show the whole sidebar and indicate pages that are, let's say you switch to Spanish, you still show the whole sidebar, and then languages that are not available in Spanish, you kind of have a little marker next to them or so. So there are some things to think through.
That's a great point. That's why I was thinking we should do it in sections so that we don't show things that are not completed. That would, I think, ruin the whole experience, having like a language in semi-Spanish, semi-English. But we can have a call to action saying, hey, there is this is translated, but there's a lot of other things that you can help us. So just like a button, help us translate the rest of the Bitcoin design guide for translations which aren't 100% complete. And reaching 100% completeness is very challenging, especially because we change things often. So, for example, somebody could translate certain part, but then we push a commit on GitHub, which would then cause them to have to, change their translations. And also with Transifex, what is tricky is that you don't really see the context of what you're translating. So you're just translating text, but you're not like on the website looking at the experience of the images. And then that's something that I learned very quickly because I was a Bitcoin Core translator for Serbian and I think also Bitcoin.org. So it was always hard to me, like especially when you're translating interface, like wait, where is this now? I always had to go back and forth into software to figure shit out where it is. So that is one challenge. That's why I was like, let's push it in Google Docs so that I have images and everything, and then maybe we will figure out a way to port it over. But I'm not sure if that model is sustainable. I wish there was a better way to do translations. Unfortunately, there aren't, as far as I know.
Also, I'm curious how you guys feel about this idea. But when we finished our presentation in Barcelona last week, one of the guys from the European Bitcoiners approached me and he messaged me on Twitter. They actually thinking of redesigning their website, and he basically reached out to me on Twitter saying, they would love some help with redesigning it. So I know we all have a lot on our plates at the moment, but yeah, I have his Twitter message, so I'm going to reply today. So just curious. Yeah, I guess they are helping us as well with the translation. So just curious what your thoughts are on that, or yeah, anything like that.
Yeah, it could be the same as wallet scrutiny and other projects where we have a kickoff call to invite the whole community and then talk about the project a little bit, and then anyone interested can can work with them. If it's really just kind of a restyling of the same content, that's something that one or two people can fairly easily do without a huge process. If it is a
Yeah.
real redesign, then it might get more involved.
Cool. I'll just message him then on Twitter, and I'll invite him. I'm guessing he might already be in the community, but I'll just invite him into the community, and maybe we can have a call about it. Yeah, just see. Sounds good.
So it sounds like the whole translation thing is just going to be kind of a constant recurring problem with things becoming out of date. Just hearing from Pavlinex's experience there. So I'm kind of wondering, like, would it be more efficient if we just converted the entire guide to Esperanto and called it a day?
Or German.
No, Esperanto.
I mean, since we are all Serbians on the call, I think the language here language choice is pretty obvious.
I agree with you, Pav. Go
Don't
for
you
it.
dare call me Serbian.
Duh.
The first time Ken speaks, the second time he speaks.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a constant battle, but the beauty of it is that you can have like all of these non-technical communities that form around translations, and then you just give them a way to interact, to gather together in some channels. You have language coordinators. You need people who are willing to review things. It's a challenge, but for example, for BTC Pay, we had like 100 contributors, which we never saw on GitHub or whatever. They're just like on Transifex doing their own thing, helping us translate things. They use it for their translation portfolio sometimes, and sometimes it's just people doing good work. So we can have like it shouldn't be us maintaining this. We should strive towards having minimum changes. So when a section is mature and we don't expect any major reconstructions, then we should like add it to Transifex for it to be able to be translated. Minimum updates are of Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that all sounds good. I wasn't actually arguing against translation. I was just making a dumb joke.
Yeah, I know, but you made a good point. Maintaining the translations is very hard, and lots of projects struggle with this, especially in Bitcoin. For example, Core always makes these changes, they rename something in their interface, and then that string remains untranslated in the next version. So handling those can sometimes be a little bit tricky. So we can always take conservative approach and say, okay, this section is pretty, okay, we don't expect major updates to it in the next year, so let's translate it. But if there are updates, we can notify people that there are new things to be translated. So it's not up to us, and it's not something we should worry about. It's in general problem with translations and software and these communities that maintain them.
How much overhead is it from an organizational? Like, do you need someone who once a week checks in, reviews things, organizes, talks to people, ensures things are accurate?
Well, each language is basically a different team in a way. So every team has a language coordinator or an owner who ensures everything is translated. Usually, the owner is the first guy that does the most translations and then unofficially claims the title to be language coordinator. And yeah, then you can onboard more people. It's something more on their end to figure out, though we can help them figure out the structure. If we have like different channels and people can communicate, I think that's important. In bitcoin.org, I think they have like general language coordinator, which once a month has like leaderboard table saying, oh, this guy translated the most today, Spanish has more than Russian, for example, like leaderboard. And then that's how you can also motivate community. In BTC Pay, what we did is we just have our main website translated. We ensured it is very concise, so there is not a lot of content for people to translate. So it's mostly like people just translate it and it's done, and we have a new strings every few months. But for Bitcoin Design Guide, this will most likely not be the case because it's more, dynamic.
Yep. Yep. And is there anything
yeah,
else that has to be done, like right to left language display?
Yes, but let's see first which languages and which communities. I guess once you have one language and announce it and then call other languages, then we will see which communities are more likely to get involved. I say for now we focus on Catalonian or Spanish, whichever language they are translating it into. And from there, we can have that as our translation champion and push that one basically and announce like, hey, we have Bitcoin Design in Spanish, want to help us, join us on Transifex. So I was like, maybe we can use this opportunity to have somebody that can lead the translation and be our, in a way, early adopter and help us figure out the tech and everything else before we invite the chaos of having multiple languages and multiple teams and things like that. So
Makes
focus
sense.
on one, get it done, and then invite others to join.
Makes sense. And would you consider it a personal defeat if the Spaniards are quicker than the Serbs?
I would need to have the help of Stefan Delornovic here and Jovan Beharovic to help me with translations. But we have lots of Serbs here. Duh.
I mean, I can help with translation. I'm also native Serbian, so I'm happy to help with that
Yeah.
as well. Yeah. So
Obviously.
yeah, obviously.
Okay, really, really interesting. It seems like we have a whole bunch of big stuff here coming up. And then something that I mentioned last week too, and Pav, that you also talked about was doing a janitorial session. So we have 65 or so open issues. Some of them have been floating around for a year or a year and a half or so in the guide repo. And one of my goals until the end of the year was to at least get rid of half of them, kind of do this on the side. But is anyone interested in joining a janitorial session with Pav and me? Just kind of go over old issues, kind of see if they're still relevant. Some of them are probably completely outdated. Some of them can probably very easily just be done or merged with others. Some are probably not. So issues are meant to be actionable and kind of somewhat precise. And the ones that are not, maybe those should be converted to discussions instead, and then maybe also to convert it to a discussion, and maybe then summarize it for the community. Say here, are 5 discussion points. Is this anyone who wants to help with these? Chime in here and here. So it's that type of stuff.
I've personally found it very funny that Pav calls himself a janitor, and I've always been fascinated with exactly what that entails. So I'll be happy to jump in on the session and see what a janitor does.
I feel like that's an established open source term. I think the guy from Craigslist or so called himself a janitor, and other open source long-term maintainers as well.
Classic Serbian occupation.
Oh, somebody will love this joke now. Yeah, okay. I now see in chat. Yeah. Yeah, it's really a boring role, but you have to love it to do it. So, yeah, it mostly entails cleaning things up. So, yeah, let's schedule a session and try to look through the issues. It doesn't have to be a single call where we'll go through all the issues. It can be just 20 issues per call that we clear. So.
But when you clean things up before the party, everybody comes in and says, "Oh wow, how nice is this place? We're gonna have a really good time." So that's what you shoot for, the moment afterwards.
I have some ideas on how we can ensure that our party is under control, let's say. So making it a little bit structured when people open issues.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sounds good. So anything else? We have 3-4 minutes left. Any other thoughts, questions, ideas? Anything that you say you want to do? We have another jam session in 2 weeks. Any what do you call that, predictions and what we'll have done by then? My goal is to get the daily spinning wallet prototype as much as I can out the door. That is
17 wrapped.
Yeah. That's
2 weeks, 17 wrapped.
17 is the milestone with a small handful of small issues, right? Okay.
Yep.
And Mo, your case study?
Yeah, Stephen and I are going to jump on today straight after the wallet scrutiny call. So, I mean, we're both, we go as fast as lightning. So hopefully we can. What do you think, Stephen? Could we get that up? Could we actually literally make that a page in that session?
With me, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
And also, and it's part of 17. So yeah, and that's part of my 2-week goal for getting 17 wrapped is the Blixt case studies is that the issue is on that milestone.
Cool. Yeah, let's do it. I'm happy to run over 1.5 hours, and then if we can wrap it up, it will be really nice.
Okay, cool.
I think it'll be good to get back in the flow of just kind of getting a bunch of smaller stuff out and getting some momentum there.
Yep.
Cool. And then the wallet scrutiny call is in 1 hour, right?
Yeah, I have to do some design research for that call. So I'm happy, keen on doing that after this call. So yeah.
Awesome. I'll probably just join in and listen in because I have not kept up with anything on that project. I'm curious.
Sounds good. Yep.
So if we're all good, I'm going to stop the recording here.